Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive here in the Book Summary Podcast. Today, we're going to be exploring Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday.
Yeah.
It's a book that's had a really profound impact on how I think about success and achievement, and I'm really excited to kind of share some of the key insights and stories with you guys today.
Yeah, this is a really good one.
And if you enjoy what you hear,
Yeah.
please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel for more deep dives into the books that are shaping the way we think and live.
It's a book that really challenges, I think, some of our conventional wisdom about ambition and success.
Right.
And I think it offers some incredibly valuable lessons for anybody who's kind of striving to achieve something meaningful in their lives.
Yeah, one of the first things that really struck me about the book was just how it kind of reframes the way we think about ego.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just about, being arrogant or boastful.
Yeah.
Right? It's like a much deeper, kind of more insidious thing than that.
Right. It's that like little voice in the back of our head that's telling us that we're better than we are.
Right.
That we've got it all figured out, that we deserve more recognition or praise than we're getting.
Right.
And it can be so seductive.
Oh, totally.
Especially like when we're starting to experience a little bit of success.
Especially when things start going well.
Yeah.
It's easy to sort of like let it go to your head.
Absolutely.
And what's so dangerous about that is that it can really just blind us to our own weaknesses.
Yeah.
And prevent us from like learning and growing.
Absolutely. It's like we build a wall around ourselves thinking it's protecting us, but it's actually like isolating us.
Right.
And preventing us from connecting with other people.
Yeah.
And from experiencing the world in like a really full way.
The book uses a really powerful quote by Richard Feynman, the physicist.
Okay.
He said, "The first principle is that you must not fool yourself. And you are the easiest person to fool."
It's like the cornerstone of the whole thing, right? We're so susceptible to just like fooling ourselves, to believing our own hype.
Right.
That's where ego can really take a hold of us.
Totally.
And start steering us down the wrong path.
So one of the first examples the book uses to illustrate this is the story of General William Tecumseh Sherman.
Okay.
Now, you might not think of a Civil War general as like a model of humility.
Right.
But Sherman's story is really fascinating.
Yeah, tell me about it.
So he wasn't someone who sought the limelight.
Right.
Like he wasn't craving recognition or anything.
Okay.
He spent years like diligently studying military strategy.
Wow.
Constantly seeking to improve his skills, his knowledge.
Yeah.
And always putting the needs of his country above his own desire for like personal glory.
Right. So he's not driven by ego. He's driven by purpose.
Exactly. And what I think is so striking about his story is just his willingness to learn from others. Even those who are like younger or less experienced than him. He understood that true leadership wasn't about ego or rank. It was about serving a higher purpose.
Right.
About being willing to like put aside personal ambition for the greater good.
Yeah. So it's almost like a complete inversion of how we tend to think about these things today.
Right.
Right. Where it's all about, self-promotion.
Self-promotion, personal branding.
You got to hustle.
You got to be out there. You got to get your name out there.
You got to grind.
Yeah, grind, hustle, all that.
Yeah. But it's almost as if we've like forgotten about the importance of humility.
Right.
Of just like quiet confidence.
Right.
Letting our actions speak for themselves.
And that's where I think the book brings in some of that wisdom from the ancient philosophers.
Okay.
Like Isocrates, he said, "Be slow to form opinions, for they are the most difficult things to erase."
Yeah.
I think that's so relevant today.
Totally.
Especially like in the age of social media,
Oh,
where, people are so quick to like, share their opinions.
Right.
Get out there.
Yeah, shoot from the hip.
Shoot from the hip.
Hot takes.
Hot takes.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's a reminder that our words and actions have consequences.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
It's better to be thoughtful and deliberate
Yeah.
than to just rush to judgment.
Right. Or self-promotion.
Or self-promotion.
Right.
The book uses a really interesting example of that.
Okay.
The story of Emily Gould. She's a writer who landed a pretty significant book deal.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But she found herself kind of paralyzed by her own online presence.
Oh, really?
So it's like this cautionary tale of how our obsession with social media can actually hinder our creativity.
Oh, wow.
And prevent us from doing our best work.
I mean, that makes sense. When you think about it, it's
Yeah.
like that constant need for validation
Totally.
can just be so distracting.
She was so consumed with building her brand and engaging with her followers online
Right.
that she neglected the actual writing.
Wow. So she became a prisoner of her own online persona in a way.
It's almost like she became a prisoner of her own online persona.
Yeah, and it's a trap that I think so many of us fall into these days, right? Where we get so caught up in the likes and the shares.
Yeah, all that stuff.
And the retweets.
Yeah.
That we forget that, true fulfillment comes from creating something meaningful.
Right.
Not from just the fleeting validation of the internet.
And speaking of meaningful work,
Yeah.
the book uses this really great example of John Boyd. He was a brilliant military strategist,
Okay.
but he prioritized impact over recognition.
Mm-hmm.
So he's one of these kind of like unsung heroes
Yeah.
who made incredible contributions to his field,
Yeah.
but never really sought the limelight or accolades or anything like that.
So what drove him?
He was driven by a deep sense of purpose,
Okay.
like a desire to make a real difference in the world.
Right.
And that's what fuels his creativity and his relentless pursuit of excellence.
Yeah, so it wasn't about ego for him. It was about something bigger than himself.
Totally. And the book describes this really powerful speech that he gave to one of his proteges,
Okay.
where he lays out this kind of stark choice.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, you can either focus on building your own career
Okay.
and seeking personal advancement,
Yeah.
or you can dedicate yourself to something bigger than yourself,
Right.
to making a lasting contribution to your country, to the world.
Wow, that's a pretty profound choice.
And what's so remarkable about Boyd is that he walks the talk.
Hmm.
He chose the path of service, of making a real difference,
Right.
even if it meant sacrificing, personal recognition or advancement.
Yeah, and his story is just such a powerful reminder that true fulfillment comes from pursuing something that we believe in, something that aligns with our values
Yeah,
and our sense of purpose,
absolutely.
even if it doesn't lead to fame or fortune.
And that brings us to another really key theme in the book,
Okay.
which is the importance of maintaining a student mindset throughout our lives.
Lifelong learning.
Lifelong learning, yeah. And the book uses a kind of unexpected example to illustrate this.
Okay, I'm curious.
Genghis Khan.
Genghis Khan.
I know, right?
Okay.
You wouldn't think of
The ruthless conqueror.
Yeah, the ruthless conqueror, right?
Okay.
It is a model for lifelong learning.
Okay.
But the book makes a really compelling case
Okay.
that even someone like Khan,
Yeah.
who achieved extraordinary power and dominance,
Right.
recognized the importance of constantly learning and adapting.
Wow. Okay, so he wasn't just like resting on his laurels?
No, not at all. He was fascinated by other cultures.
Mm-hmm.
He was always seeking out new knowledge,
Right.
new
yeah.
technologies,
Mm-hmm.
and he was willing to integrate the best of what he learned into his own strategies,
Wow. So he was constantly evolving
constantly evolving.
and adapting.
And the book argues that this kind of mindset is essential for anyone who wants to achieve lasting success in any field,
Okay.
right? It's about recognizing that we always have more to learn.
Yeah, stay hungry.
Stay hungry. Yeah.
Right.
We should never become complacent or arrogant,
Absolutely.
and we should always be seeking out new ideas and perspectives.
I like that a lot.
And it's not just about like formal education or acquiring knowledge.
Right.
It's about cultivating a mindset of curiosity,
Okay.
openness,
Yeah.
being willing to challenge our own assumptions and beliefs.
You got to be able to unlearn things too sometimes.
Unlearn things, absolutely. And the book introduces a really practical tool for fostering this kind of mindset.
Okay. I'm all ears.
It's the plus, minus, and equal system,
Plus, minus, and equal.
developed by the mixed martial arts champion Frank Shamrock.
Interesting. Okay.
And I love this system because it's so simple,
Okay. How's it work?
but it's so powerful.
Yeah.
So basically, it encourages us to like consciously cultivate relationships with people
Okay.
who can help us grow and learn.
Yeah.
So the plus represents people who are more experienced or skilled than us.
Got it. So mentors, people we can learn from.
Mentors.
Yeah.
Exactly, people we can learn from.
Yeah.
The minus represents people who are less experienced,
Okay.
people we can teach and mentor,
Okay.
which actually helps to solidify our own understanding.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right. And then equal represents our peers, people who are at a similar level to us.
Got it. So
In-
people we can collaborate with.
Collaborate with, yeah, compete against,
Yeah.
learn
Well,
from.
So it's like this constant loop of learning and growth.
Exactly. We're constantly challenging ourselves,
Yeah.
pushing ourselves outside of our comfort zones,
Yeah.
and expanding our perspectives.
And it helps us avoid that trap of thinking we've arrived,
So
We've made it. We know everything.
we're done.
We can just coast now.
Yeah.
No,
Right,
you got to stay hungry.
Yeah, you got to stay hungry. And so we've talked about the importance of humility,
Yeah.
of focusing on action over talk.
Right.
and of maintaining that student mindset.
Absolutely.
So what other strategies does the book offer for keeping ego in check?
Yeah, I'm curious to hear more about that.
Well, before we jump into that,
Yeah.
if you're finding these insights helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel.
Yeah, definitely.
It really does help us out a ton, and it ensures you don't miss any of our future deep dives.
Right.
But let's talk about how the book tackles the importance of self-control and discipline.
Okay, so managing those impulses, those ego-driven impulses.
Exactly. And the book uses a truly remarkable example to illustrate this point.
Okay, I'm listening.
The story of Jackie Robinson.
Jackie Robinson.
The first African-American player in Major League Baseball.
Wow.
Can you imagine the pressure, the scrutiny,
Yeah.
the outright hostility he faced?
I mean, I can't even fathom it.
The racism and prejudice were just relentless.
Wow.
It's just mind-boggling to think about the level of restraint and composure he had to maintain.
Yeah, he must have had nerves of steel.
Because he knew that his actions, every move he made, were being watched and judged.
Oh, absolutely.
And yet he chose to channel his energy into his performance on the field.
Right.
Into breaking down barriers and proving that he belonged there. He didn't let the hatred and the bigotry define him.
That's incredible.
So it's a powerful lesson in focusing on what we can control, on channeling our energy into something productive,
right,
rather than getting bogged down by things that are outside of our control.
So it's not about suppressing your emotions or ignoring what's happening around you.
Right.
It's about choosing how you respond to it.
Choosing how you respond to it.
Yeah.
And the book contrasts Robinson's approach with writers like J.D. Salinger and John Fante.
Okay.
Who, despite their immense talent, allowed their egos and insecurities to kind of sabotage their careers.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Salinger withdrew from public life, became increasingly reclusive.
Right.
While Fante battled alcoholism and abandoned his writing for extended periods.
Oh, man. So they let their inner demons kind of get the better of them?
Yeah, and their stories serve as these cautionary tales of how unchecked ego, whether it manifests as arrogance or insecurity, can ultimately derail our efforts, prevent us from realizing our full potential.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy almost.
Right.
You know?
Totally.
Like you believe you're not good enough, and then you act in ways that sabotage yourself.
Right, and it becomes a reality.
Exactly.
So self-control and discipline are essential.
Yeah.
Not just for achieving success, but for navigating those inevitable challenges and setbacks that life throws our way.
I mean, that's where resilience comes in.
Resilience.
The ability to bounce back from adversity.
Yeah.
And it's not about pretending you know that you're not affected by what's going on around you. Yeah. It's about choosing how you respond.
Choosing how you respond.
And making a conscious decision about how you're going to let these events shape you.
And the book uses another really fascinating example.
Okay.
To highlight the dangers of unchecked ego.
Okay.
This time in a leadership context.
Yeah.
The story of General George McClellan during the Civil War.
Okay.
So McClellan was a brilliant military strategist and organizer.
Okay.
But his inflated sense of self-importance ultimately led to missed opportunities and strategic blunders. He was so preoccupied with his image and his reputation, with being perceived as the savior of the Union.
Oh, so his ego was getting in the way of his decision-making.
He hesitated to act decisively.
Wow.
He often overestimated his own abilities and underestimated his opponents.
Classic ego trap.
Classic ego trap. And his story is just a stark reminder that ego can be just as destructive in a leadership role as it can be in our personal lives.
Absolutely. It can affect everything we do.
And it highlights the importance of having a strong internal compass, of being guided by principles and values, rather than by a desire for personal glory or recognition.
You got to know what you stand for.
Exactly.
What your core values are.
Totally.
And let those guide your decisions.
This is some seriously good stuff.
Yeah.
If you're finding this deep dive as insightful as I am, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button.
Yeah, for sure.
It helps us out a ton.
Yeah.
And it ensures you don't miss any of our future deep dives.
Right on.
But now let's move on to another crucial theme in the book.
Okay.
The dangers of early pride.
Oh, early pride. That's a good one.
Yeah, it's that intoxicating feeling of accomplishment that can so easily lead to complacency and this sense of invincibility.
Yeah, like you're on top of the world.
Right.
And nothing can stop you.
Yeah, you're untouchable.
Yeah, but that's when you got to be the most careful.
Exactly. That's what the book argues. It's in those moments of triumph.
Right.
that we need to be most vigilant, most aware of the seductive whisper of ego.
Because that's when it can really take root.
Totally.
And start to warp our perception.
Yeah, and lead us to make decisions that are ultimately detrimental to our long-term success and happiness.
So how do we avoid falling into that trap?
Yeah, how do we maintain that sense of groundedness and humility, even when we're achieving great things?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
Well, the book offers some really practical advice. And it starts with understanding that true success is a journey, not a destination.
Okay, I like that.
It's not about reaching some arbitrary endpoint. It's about the continuous process of learning, growing, and striving to be a little bit better each day.
So it's about the process, not the outcome.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I love that idea.
Yeah.
It takes the pressure off of achieving some grand, predefined outcome and shifts the focus to the process itself, to the daily grind of showing up, doing the work, even when it's tough. Even when it's unglamorous.
It's about embracing the journey.
Exactly. And that's where the concept of maintaining that student mindset becomes so important.
Okay.
Right? It's about cultivating that sense of curiosity, being open to new ideas and challenges, and always seeking to expand our knowledge and understanding, even when we've achieved a certain level of mastery.
Never stop learning.
Never stop learning. And the book talks about how easy it is to get caught up in our own internal narratives.
Oh, yeah.
You know, to replay past successes or failures in our minds, or to fantasize about future achievements.
Oh, yeah, I'm guilty of that.
Oh, totally, me too.
Yeah.
It's so easy to do.
It's so easy to get lost in those thought loops.
But those kinds of mental distractions can prevent us from being fully present and engaged in the work that needs to be done.
You got to stay focused.
They can make us complacent, leading us to believe that we've already arrived. When in reality, there's always more to learn, more to achieve, more to experience.
It's about staying grounded in the present moment. And not getting swept away by your own ego-driven thoughts and fantasies.
Exactly. So it's about being mindful. About staying grounded in the present moment. And about resisting that temptation to get swept away. By our own ego-driven thoughts and fantasies.
Absolutely.
And it's also about recognizing that success is often a team effort. That we rarely achieve anything truly meaningful on our own.
It's about collaboration.
Collaboration.
And recognizing that you're not in this alone.
Exactly. And the book highlights the importance of delegating tasks and empowering others. And it uses the example of Dwight D. Eisenhower. And his approach to organizing the White House when he became president.
Interesting.
So Eisenhower understood that he couldn't do everything himself. He recognized the importance of surrounding himself with talented individuals, of delegating responsibility, and of trusting others to do their jobs.
That's huge.
And the book contrasts Eisenhower's approach with the more chaotic and ego-driven leadership style of someone like John DeLorean. Whose car company ultimately imploded.
Oh, wow.
Due to his inability to delegate and his need to control every aspect of the business.
So his ego basically sabotaged his success.
Totally.
Wow.
His story is a classic example of how ego can blind us to the need for collaboration and teamwork.
It makes you think you're the only one who can do things right. That you're indispensable. But that's a recipe for burnout.
Totally.
Frustration and ultimately failure.
So it sounds like effective leadership is as much about empowering others as it is about leading from the front.
Absolutely. It's about creating an environment where people feel valued, respected, and trusted to contribute their unique talents and skills.
Totally.
And it's about being willing to step back, let go of control, and celebrate the success of others as much as your own.
That's such a great point. And it reminds me of something I read recently about how the most effective leaders are often those who are the most humble. The ones who are willing to put the needs of their team above their own ego gratification.
Totally. And the book reinforces this idea with the story of George Marshall. A highly successful military leader who consistently prioritized the greater good over personal ambition.
So he was known for his quiet competence, his strategic brilliance, and his unwavering commitment to serving his country. And what's really striking is his willingness to decline promotions or accolades. if he felt that they would interfere with his ability to do his job effectively.
Wow, so he was putting the mission above his own ego.
Exactly.
Oh.
He understood that true leadership wasn't about climbing the ladder of success,
Right.
but about making a real difference.
Yeah.
About contributing his skills and talents
Right.
to something larger than himself.
It's powerful.
And the book highlights this incredible example of Marshall's selflessness.
Okay.
His decision to decline the opportunity to command the troops on D-Day.
Wow.
One of the most pivotal and historically significant military operations.
I mean, can you imagine making that choice?
I know, it's crazy, right?
To pass up a chance to lead what was arguably the most important military operation in modern history?
To pass up that kind of glory.
Right. I know.
But he recognized that his skills and experience were more valuable in his current role.
Right.
Where he was responsible for coordinating the overall war effort from Washington.
So he was willing to sacrifice his own personal glory.
Wow.
For the greater good, for the success of the mission.
That's a testament to his character.
Right.
And his commitment to service.
Yeah, and it's a powerful reminder that true leadership often requires us to make those difficult choices.
Right.
To put aside our own egos and ambitions.
Yeah.
And to focus on what's best for the organization or the cause we're serving.
Get out the bigger picture.
The bigger picture, and this is really resonating with me.
Yeah.
Because it makes me think about how often we get caught up in that pursuit of external validation.
Right.
Of titles, awards, or recognition.
The need for external approval.
Yeah. And how that can actually distract us from the work that truly matters.
And the book emphasizes the importance of maintaining our own internal scorecard,
Right.
of focusing on our own standards of excellence and integrity,
Right.
rather than seeking the approval of others.
Yeah, and it uses the story of Belisarius.
Okay.
He was a brilliant Roman general who achieved extraordinary military victories,
Right.
but was repeatedly mistreated and betrayed by the emperor he served.
Oh, wow. That's tough.
I know his story is kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But it's an example of how fickle fame and fortune can be.
Right.
And how it's ultimately more fulfilling to find our sense of worth and purpose from within.
It's about knowing your own value.
Exactly.
Even if others don't recognize it.
So despite being denied the recognition and the rewards he deserved,
Yeah.
Belisarius remained committed to his duty, finding satisfaction in knowing that he had done his best
Right.
and served his country honorably.
So it's about integrity. Doing the right thing even when no one's watching.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he understood that true success wasn't about external validation,
Right.
but about living in accordance with his own values and principles,
Right.
about doing what he believed was right, regardless of the consequences.
So it's about having that moral compass.
Yeah. And it's a powerful reminder that we all have the power to choose how we define success,
Okay.
to create our own internal scorecard,
Yeah.
and to find fulfillment in the knowledge that we're living a life of integrity and purpose.
And speaking of living a life of purpose,
Yeah.
if you're finding this deep dive into ego is the enemy, as valuable as we are,
Yeah.
we would love for you to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel.
Yeah, please do.
Your support helps us reach a wider audience and continue creating content that inspires, educates, and empowers.
We'll be back soon with the final part of our deep dive,
Okay.
where we'll explore the power of reframing failure as an opportunity for growth
Ooh, that's a good one.
and the transformative power of love and forgiveness.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Stay tuned.
All right. So we were talking about early pride and how it can kind of lead to complacency and that sense of invincibility.
Right, and it's so seductive.
Oh, yeah.
Like you get that rush of adrenaline. You're like on top of the world. You think nothing can stop you.
But that's exactly when we need to be the most careful, right?
That's what the book argues.
Yeah, because that's when ego can really take root
Right.
and start to warp our perceptions.
And lead us to make decisions that are not good for us in the long run.
Right. Ultimately detrimental to our success and our happiness.
So how do we avoid that? How do we maintain that sense of groundedness and humility even when we're achieving great things?
That's the question.
That's the big question.
And I think the book gives some really practical advice.
Okay.
And it starts with understanding that true success, it's not a destination, it's a journey.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
It's not about reaching some arbitrary endpoint. Yeah. It's about the continuous process of learning and growing and striving to be a little bit better each day.
So it's not about the outcome so much as it is about the process.
Exactly.
I love that.
And I think that takes the pressure off a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not about achieving some grand predefined outcome.
Right.
It's about just showing up every day and doing the work.
Yeah.
Even when it's tough.
Even when it's unglamorous.
Right. Even when it's boring.
And that's where that idea of the student mindset really comes in.
Right. You got to stay curious.
Like you're curious. Yeah.
Be open to new ideas and challenges.
And always be willing to learn.
Always be learning.
Yeah.
And the book talks about how easy it is to get caught up in our own heads.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
You know, replaying past successes or failures, or fantasizing about future achievements.
Oh, yeah. I do that all the time.
I'm guilty of that, too.
But those kinds of mental distractions can really prevent us from being present in the moment.
Absolutely. You got to stay focused on the task at hand.
And they can make us complacent, you know?
Right.
Thinking that we've already arrived when there's still so much more to learn and experience.
Yeah, you got to stay hungry.
Stay hungry. Yeah. And so it's about being mindful, staying grounded in the present moment, and resisting the urge to get swept away by those ego-driven thoughts and fantasies.
It's so easy to get lost in that stuff.
Totally. And it's also about recognizing that success is rarely a solo effort.
Right.
It's a team sport.
We need each other.
We need each other.
Yeah.
And the book highlights the importance of delegating and empowering others.
Okay.
And it uses the example of Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Okay. Interesting.
So when he became president, he had this very specific approach to organizing the White House. He understood that he couldn't do everything himself.
Right.
So he surrounded himself with really talented people,
Okay.
delegated responsibility, and trusted them to do their jobs.
That's huge.
Yeah. And the book contrasts this with someone like John DeLorean,
Oh, wow.
whose car company imploded because he couldn't let go of control.
Really?
He had to micromanage everything.
So his ego basically sabotaged his success.
It did.
Wow.
And it's a classic example of how ego can make us think that we're the only ones who can do things right.
Yeah, that we're indispensable.
Right.
But that's just not true.
And it leads to burnout,
Yeah.
frustration, and ultimately failure.
So it sounds like effective leadership is not just about leading from the front. It's also about empowering others.
Exactly. It's about creating an environment where people feel valued and respected and trusted to contribute their unique skills and talents.
Yeah.
And it's about being willing to step back, let go of control, and celebrate the success of others.
That's a good one.
It is. And it reminds me of something I read recently about how the most effective leaders are often the most humble ones. The ones who are willing to put the needs of their team above their own ego gratification.
Right. It's not about them. It's about the mission.
And the book reinforces this idea with the story of George Marshall.
Yeah. Okay.
Who was this highly successful military leader.
Yeah.
And he really prioritized the greater good
Okay.
over personal ambition.
So he wasn't in it for the glory.
Not at all. He was known for his quiet competence, his strategic brilliance, and his unwavering commitment to serving his country.
So what was so special about him?
What was so remarkable about him is that he was willing to decline promotions and even accolades if he felt they would interfere with his ability to do his job effectively.
Really?
Yeah, he was like, I'm good. I'm doing what I need to do here.
Wow. So he was putting the mission above his own ego.
Absolutely. He understood that true leadership wasn't about climbing the ladder of success, but about making a real difference, contributing his skills and talents to something larger than himself.
That's powerful.
And the book has this incredible example of his selflessness.
Okay.
He declined the opportunity to command the troops on D-Day,
Wow.
one of the most pivotal military operations in history.
I mean, can you imagine giving that up?
It's crazy, right?
Passing up a chance to lead what was arguably the most important military operation in modern history.
I know, but he recognized that his skills and experience were more valuable in his current role,
Yeah.
where he was coordinating the entire war effort from Washington.
So he was playing a more strategic role.
He was.
Yeah.
And he was willing to sacrifice his own personal glory for the greater good.
Oh. That's true leadership.
It is, and it's a powerful reminder that true leadership often requires us to make those tough choices, to put aside our own egos and ambitions, and to focus on what's best for the team or the organization or the cause.
It's about the bigger picture.
It is, and it really makes me think about how often we get so caught up in chasing external validation.
Right.
You know, titles, awards, recognition.
That need for approval.
And how they can actually distract us from doing the work that really matters.
Right. You get so focused on the outcome, you forget about the process.
Exactly. And the book emphasizes the importance of maintaining what it calls our internal scorecard. So it's about focusing on our own standards of excellence.
Right.
our integrity
Yeah.
rather than seeking the approval of others.
So it's about what you think of yourself,
Okay.
not what other people think of you.
And it uses the story of Belisarius,
Okay.
who was this brilliant Roman general
Hmm.
who achieved these extraordinary military victories.
Okay.
But he was constantly being mistreated and betrayed by the emperor he served.
Oh, wow.
I know his story is heartbreaking, but it's a really good example of how fickle fame and fortune can be,
Yeah.
and how it's so much more fulfilling to find our sense of worth and purpose from within.
Right. It's about knowing your own value,
Exactly.
even if other people don't see it.
So despite being denied the recognition and the rewards he deserved,
Yeah.
Belisarius remained committed to his duty, finding satisfaction in knowing that he had done his best and served his country honorably.
So it's about integrity.
Integrity, yeah. Doing the right thing even when no one's watching.
Even when no one's watching.
And he understood that true success wasn't about external validation,
Right.
but about living in accordance with his values and principles,
Right.
about doing what he believed was right, regardless of the consequences.
It's about having that moral compass.
And it's a powerful reminder that we all have the power to choose how we define success,
Yeah.
to create our own internal scorecard, and to find fulfillment in knowing that we're living a life of integrity and purpose.
I love that.
Me too.
And speaking of living a life of purpose,
Yeah.
if you're finding this deep dive into ego is the enemy as valuable as we are, we would love for you to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel.
Please do. It really helps us out.
Your support means the world to us.
It does, and it helps us reach a wider audience and continue creating content that we hope is inspiring and educational.
Right on.
We'll be back soon with the final part of our deep dive, where we'll explore the power of reframing failure as an opportunity for growth and the transformative power of love and forgiveness.
Okay, I can't wait for that.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
So we've talked about, the seductive nature of ego and how it can kind of trip us up at every stage of life.
Yeah, from those early days of aspiration to, the heights of success, even,
Even when things are going well.
exactly when we might think we've got it all figured out.
Yep.
Ego is always lurking, waiting to kind of, throw us off track.
Totally. But the book doesn't just leave us hanging right. It gives us some tools to work with.
Absolutely. It offers this really powerful antidote to that poison of ego.
Right. And I think it starts with a shift in perspective.
Yeah, how we view the world, how we view ourselves.
And one of the biggest shifts, I think, is learning to reframe failure, not as a sign of defeat, but as an opportunity for growth.
Yeah, I love that.
The book tells the story of Malcolm X,
Okay.
who really transformed his life during his time in prison.
Wow.
And he could have easily, given in to despair and bitterness,
Right.
but instead, he used that time to educate himself.
Hmm.
He devoured books,
Wow.
developed his own really powerful philosophy.
So prison became like this crucible for him.
It did. It was a place of intense personal transformation.
Yeah.
And he emerged as a leader, a voice for social justice,
Yeah.
a testament to the power of resilience
Right.
and the human capacity for growth, even in the face of unimaginable adversity.
That's inspiring.
It is. And it's a reminder that, failure doesn't define us. It's what we do with those experiences,
Right.
how we choose to learn and grow from them, that really shapes who we are and determines our future success.
So it's not about avoiding failure. It's
Oh.
about how you respond to it.
Exactly. And the book contrasts Malcolm X's approach with that of John DeLorean,
Okay.
who, when faced with the failure of his car company,
Yeah.
responded with this series of increasingly reckless and ultimately illegal actions.
Oh.
So instead of taking responsibility, learning from his mistakes,
Right.
and finding a new path forward, he let his pride and his fear of failure drive him to make choices that ruined his career and his reputation.
So it's like two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
Right? You can either let failure break you, or you can use it as fuel to grow and become stronger.
And I think a big part of that is having a strong support system during those times.
Right.
People who believe in you, who challenge you, and who can help you see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, it's about surrounding yourself with people who can offer honest feedback,
Right.
help you identify your blind spots,
Yeah.
and support you as you navigate those tough times.
And it's also about being willing to ask for help,
Mm.
acknowledging that we don't have all the answers,
Yeah.
and being open to receiving guidance from others.
Which can be hard,
It can be really hard.
especially when our ego is telling us that we should have it all figured out.
And we should be strong and independent.
Yeah, but it takes humility to admit that we need help.
Right.
And I think that's a sign of strength.
It is a sign of strength.
Not weakness.
Now, this next part of the book really resonated with me. It talks about the importance of cultivating a mindset of love and forgiveness.
That's interesting.
Even towards those who have wronged us.
Yeah, I think that's a really powerful concept.
And I think it's often misunderstood.
Right. People think it's about letting people off the hook or condoning bad behavior.
Exactly. But it's not about that at all. It's about recognizing that holding on to anger and resentment really just hurts us in the end.
Right.
It poisons our minds, it clouds our judgment, and it prevents us from moving on.
So it's about freeing ourselves.
It is about freeing ourselves.
From that negativity.
And the book uses a really great example to illustrate this point.
Okay, I'm listening.
The story of Orson Welles.
Orson?
And his masterpiece, Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
Which was viciously attacked and suppressed by William Randolph Hearst.
Oh, wow.
The media mogul.
Yeah.
Who believed that the film was this thinly veiled critique of his own life. So Hearst used all of his power and influence to try to destroy the film and ruin Welles's career. And while he was partially successful in suppressing its initial release, his efforts ultimately backfired.
Really?
Yeah, it drew even more attention to the film and ensured its lasting legacy. And what's so remarkable about Welles is that he didn't let Hearst's vendetta consume him.
Yeah.
He didn't waste his energy on bitterness or revenge.
He took the high road.
He kept making films. He pursued his artistic passions, and he lived a full and vibrant life, seemingly unburdened by the weight of Hearst's animosity.
That's incredible.
And it's such a powerful example of how choosing love and forgiveness, even in the face of injustice, can be so incredibly liberating and empowering.
It allows you to break free from that cycle of anger and resentment and focus your energy on creating something positive.
The book also talks about Frederick Douglass, who, despite experiencing horrific racism and injustice, refused to let those experiences embitter him. He understood that hatred and bitterness would only perpetuate the cycle of oppression. So he chose to respond with love and compassion, recognizing that those qualities were far more powerful than anger or resentment.
And his story reminds us that we always have a choice in how we respond to adversity. We can let it break us, or we can let it make us stronger.
And choosing love, even when it's difficult, is ultimately the most liberating path.
It frees us from that burden of negativity.
And this message of love and forgiveness, I think, is so relevant today.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, when we're constantly bombarded with so much negativity and outrage.
Yeah, it's everywhere you look.
It's everywhere you look, and it's a reminder that we can choose to rise above that. To focus on what unites us rather than what divides us. And to approach the world with a spirit of compassion and understanding.
I love that.
As we wrap up this deep dive into ego is the enemy, I think it's important to remember that the battle with ego is ongoing. It doesn't end when we achieve a certain level of success or overcome a particular challenge. It's a lifelong pursuit.
A
constant process of self-reflection, self-awareness, and course correction.
You gotta stay vigilant.
You do. And the book uses one final example to kind of drive this point home. The story of Dov Charney, the founder of American Apparel, who was ultimately ousted from his own company.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And he failed to acknowledge his own role in his downfall.
Oh, so he let his ego get the best of him.
He did. And it's a cautionary tale of how ego can blind us to our own flaws and lead us to make decisions that are ultimately self-destructive.
So he was a brilliant entrepreneur.
He was.
But he also had some major blind spots.
He did.
Yeah.
And when his company started to struggle, he refused to take responsibility. He blamed others, made excuses.
Classic ego defense mechanism.
And he lost control of the very empire that he created.
Wow.
So it's a reminder that ego can strike at any time.
Yeah.
Even when we're at the top of our game.
Right when we might think we're untouchable.
Right.
That's when we gotta be the most careful.
Exactly. It's about staying grounded.
Yeah.
Being willing to admit our mistakes.
Yeah.
And surrounding ourselves with people who can offer honest feedback and help us stay accountable.
Absolutely. Having that support system is crucial.
It is. So Ego is the Enemy is more than just a book title.
Right.
It's a call to action.
Yeah.
A reminder that we can be our own worst enemies.
Absolutely.
And that the battle with ego is one that we have to fight every single day.
But it's also a message of hope.
Right.
A reminder that we have the power to choose how we live our lives.
Yes.
And to create a world that is more just and compassionate.
Absolutely. And more fulfilling for ourselves and for generations to come.
I love that.
So if you haven't already, I highly recommend picking up a copy of Ego is the Enemy.
Yeah, it's a great read.
It's a book that will challenge you, inspire you, and hopefully help you navigate the inevitable ups and downs of life with a little more wisdom and a little less ego.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And if you enjoyed this deep dive, please hit that like button and subscribe to the Book Summary Podcast for more insightful explorations into the books that are shaping the way we think and live.
Yeah, we'd love to have you join us on this journey.
Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.
Take care.